Hi,
Hey, Frank.
friend.
Hello. Same time, Jinx.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Last time
Did
you
you?
heard that.
I do some of those stuffs with the girls sometimes, and they're like, "What are you doing? What are you
Because anything
talking?"
that was cool in our childhood, we can bet and believe it is not cool to them right now.
Except jeans. The jean style that is back is from the 90s.
Which one, friend?
Like the
I don't know.
loose jeans with the holes.
The baggy jeans? Did I wear I don't know that I wore baggy jeans. Okay, no, let me go back. Low rise jeans, definitely. But I was wearing
Yeah,
a
no,
low
I'm not talking about 99. I'm talking like 95. Maybe that was an East Coast thing, like grunge.
Yeah, never, no, I ain't never dressed no grunge, girl. Do you know who I am? No.
Did you wear
I ain't
Doc Martens?
Hell no. Have you lost your mind? Girl, no.
You
I
look good
was
in
wearing,
Doc Martens.
I was wearing heels, baby. I was wearing heels to school in high school.
You were?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, and
Were
I
you
remember
also wearing a pant like a skirt suit?
when it was too cold. I wasn't in business casual, bitch. But when it was like too cold to wear heels, which was like sandals, rare, I would literally go to ride the bus with socks on with my sandals and take my socks off during the day. And my toenail polish and my nails always matched, and it was never chipped. Been that girl, guarantee you. It's great.
Okay. What are we talking about today? Oh, marriage.
Okay, we're talking about the highs, the lows, the joys, the challenges of marriage today, and why it's sold to us at a young age as being number one, the goal, but also necessary to live kind of our perfect Cinderella lives. That for us as cisgender women especially, it should be what we espouse to or what we aspire to have. And as a matter of fact, I remember being in high school and one of my teachers, her sister was getting married. And her sister, I said, "Oh, what did your sister do?" And she said, "Well, she went to college, but she dropped out. She didn't get her degree, she got her MRS." And I was like, "What does that mean she got her MRS?" Because I was young, I was like 16. She said she got married. She found her husband in college, and that was what was most important to her and also to my mom. And I was like, "Oh, wow." Because I do think there's some nuance that we'll get into today that may not be the same for all communities.
Yeah, and I also think that it's it's important to investigate some of these structures during different phases of our lives in different times in history.
Good
Marriage
point.
may have served a different purpose in the 50s or the 40s or last century than they do today.
Are you saying around things like property ownership or lack of rights for women?
Yeah, I think the equation for cisgender hetero people, the equation is different when one gender previously couldn't own property or couldn't vote or couldn't have a credit card. I mean, there's some basic things that we have as women, well, that all people have or have access to, I guess is a better way to put it, because not everyone had that. That were just banned.
That's true. I went to the African American History Museum in
You
DC,
got
the
in?
Smithsonian. Yeah, so if you check the website probably about 3 weeks out, maybe a little less, you typically can get tickets. And so we got tickets. It was no line. We literally walked straight in on a Saturday at that. And you start typically on the bottom floor, which traces our history from Africa through enslavement, and you go all the way up. So we're on the bottom floor, and I remember reading a lot of the details around marriages, and it was a reminder that number one, enslaved people could not legally be married. And when ceremonies were held, they were either done secretly, which is where jumping the broom comes from, or it's something that the owners of enslaved people, the white men, would use to kind of provide a bit of a carrot. Like, if you act right, I'll let you marry so and so. As a matter of fact, get in alignment. If not, I'm going to ship you to another plantation. And so, from the roots of this, I just have to insert that, right? That we're talking about an institution that's never really favored women, but also was withheld from certain populations, specifically the descendants of African slaves in this country. And I think that then shapes what it begins to mean later.
Absolutely. And you and I have talked about this a little bit, kind of moving into today, particularly with some young people, right? The kind of images of relationships and engagements and proposals and marriages and the reality of what the institution is.
Jesus. I remember being young, y'all, and my aunt probably is horrified that I'm sharing this, but I'm going to share it anyway. And finding this binder she had full of marriage, like sample marriage invitations. And if I was 7, she was like 17. She was still in high school. So I was like, Auntie, where'd you get all of this from? And back then, you could literally like write to different stationery companies and say, I'm thinking about getting married. And they would send you all of these samples in the mail. It was a binder this thick, like 11 by 17, full of wedding invitations, girl, like sample invitations. And I was too young to be like, who you getting married to? Right? To be like, what, girl? But it was just this imagining and what it meant for her to have possession of this. And it was such a big deal. Like, don't go with it. And for me to then have that memory at 7, it's like, this is what you're supposed to do. Do you think that my 17-year-old uncle or male cousins were having that experience, Margo?
No, no, mm-mm, no. But I mean, it's sold to young girls from the jump. I mean, think about the movies we watched. Cinderella. What the fuck? You
Yeah.
meet someone and a slipper fits you and you're going to marry them? You're destined to be together? Aladdin. I mean, The Little
Rapunzel,
Mermaid,
Snow White.
Snow White. I mean, a real narrative around needing a male partner to have a life.
And I actually was thinking about this today, Em, because I was going back. You all, we have a new episode around my engagement story. And one of the points that you make, Margo, is around how not only do we receive these messages early, but it comes from a space of desperation when you don't have it. And everything is meant to be to put ourselves in a position to be chosen. And what we talked about in that episode is when we're starting from a scarcity mindset, it oftentimes does not work out favorably for us because we are willing to settle. We end up in relationships that are very much unbalanced. In my case, I ended up in a relationship that was very toxic and abusive. All marriages, of course, are not this way. We will talk about the many benefits of marriage in this episode, right? But I just think entering into it willingly and wanting to have your partner to spend the rest of your lives together, that should not involve you being at a deficit.
No, and it also shouldn't involve you having to kind of make yourself smaller. So there's so many benefits of marriage. I reap so many of them. I mean, being in a partnership in a certain way that feels like a container
Yeah.
is incredible, and it does provide a level of like intimacy, comfort, safety, family kind of structure and
Yeah.
and privacy that I think you don't need marriage for, but I think marriage kind of creates that buffer around you that people understand.
Yeah. I mean, and outside of property ownership and certain benefits, insurance, life insurance, that type of stuff, I think that's why in the gay rights movement, marriage was so central because we want the same protections and the feeling that you just described as everyone else. And so I am entering that season as well as someone who is 42 years old, engaged for the first time, who will soon be married for the first time.
Wait, but you weren't engaged for the first time.
I completely forgot about that.
You're healed! Tashira! That's fucking amazing!
I literally forgot.
Okay, well, getting married for the first time.
Yeah. As someone who is going to be getting married for the first time next year, I'm looking forward to that because, as we talked about before, there's a difference, right, in how it feels when you are dating or even when you're engaged and then when you are married. I will soon hopefully find that out. But this idea that I can build a life and a legacy and a future in a way that feels settled and safe and secure, I'm very much looking forward to that. And I think that is a benefit that I definitely welcome. But I also know, that I have been the high priestess of Thailandia for some time, and so I would say here's what we're going to enter into the chat that may kind of ruffle some feathers. What is wrong with just dating? What is wrong with being a big age in dating?
So it's also interesting because it does feel like, and maybe I'm just biased, but it feels like there are some folks who maybe continually get married, but to your point, for what purpose?
So okay, let's go back. Starting with why we know the institution of marriage even exists, right? This is walk into any gender studies department today and you will hear about, and there are many texts and lots of research around this, that much of marriage in the Western context has been around this benefit of property ownership and wealth accumulation. This idea of love marriage is still relatively new. And so I don't think that it diminishes what marriage is to talk about those economic realities. That is a thing, and we have to acknowledge that. So if you are going to be in love and you don't need the economic benefits and you already feel kind of secure where you are in life, in career, you're not building a life together in a very specific way, I agree with you. If I was a celebrity, am I saying that I would never get married? Absolutely not. I would never say that. But damn it, now, after the second time, after the third time, I'm just going to ride this thing on out.
But then you see cases like the Christina Hall divorce. Christina Hall of HGTV, whose ex is like squatting in her $12 million home.
And I think it's in Tennessee. Do you imagine what a $12 million home looks like in the state of Tennessee? It's palatial, I'm sure. Palatial. It's palatial, I'm sure.
It likes palatial. It's palatial, spacious, palatial.
I mean, it's probably the size of a football field, but that is wild. So let's talk about her.
Yeah, I don't know her well, but she is on HGTV. She's kind of one of these property flipper people. She was married to the guy who's married to the woman from Selling Sunset, Tariq El Musa, I think his name is. And then she married this guy named Ant Anstead and had a baby with him, and then got divorced recently and remarried very quickly to this guy. So she's been married 3 times in a very short period.
And that's the thing too. Like the last two were like on the heels of each other. I think she and Tariq were divorced, and we know like celebrity divorces can take some time. So no judgment whatsoever. But I think after that divorce was final, and she married the second guy in the same year, and then she
And had a baby.
and had a baby, and then divorced the second guy, and a year later, very quickly married the third guy. And the third guy is the one who's squatting in her home.
It's wild. The other thing that's just also pretty wild about some of these are that they're in business with their spouses, which I think I would never do that. And I see reasons why you may, but I think it gets really messy very quickly.
Oh, do you mean because of like how to then divide things?
How do you divide a business, or how do you keep a business alive when you're getting divorced?
No, I was just gonna say for me, I would also, for a different reason, not do it, not even anticipating the end of the relationship. I just would not be a good like investor, maybe, but day-to-day business partner with my spouse. Oh hell no. We have to have some division of our lives. That would
But
be
don't you
too
already
much.
do that in that you're running your family together? It's like, I don't need to see you at the office too.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you think is something about these women, J Lo and what's her name again? Christina?
Christina.
J Lo and Christina feeling that they're like promiscuous or they're not upstanding women if they date casually? Do they feel like they have to be married to be respected or highly regarded in society?
I mean, I think my read on it is twofold. One, I think it comes from a scarcity mindset, right? So it's like I have all these things, but I want this other thing, and I want this other thing too. Why can't I have that? Not that you can't, but also I don't think we have a lot. Like we have a lot of imagery and adulation for kind of the playboy man who's
Hmm.
super successful, who has lovers all over the world. Like no one judges that guy,
You have.
right? I mean, but like there's so many kind of that that character.
Hmm.
And there's something about we don't have a lot of those similar characters for women who are independently successful and professionally independent and have kind of their own thing going on.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, taking it out of the celebrity context, I can definitely see that. I mean, I hear that a lot from my straight friends who are a certain age. These women may have amazing careers, over six-figure earners, own their own home. They've checked the boxes that we're told to value, take vacations, passports and their stamps, have amazing relationships with friends and with family, and they still feel like they have missed something in life by not being married.
There's also this kind of part of the conversation that I feel like is just assumed that you don't have an intimate or close partner unless you're married.
Absolutely.
And I think that's very confusing to me.
Because you could certainly have a close partner, be in a close relationship, be walking through life together and decide that marriage is not for you. And does it mean that that relationship should be less meaningful? Hell no. So back to celebrities who do have so much to lose in the case of Christina. Just girl, be happy.
Or
Be in
what
a
about just doing
long
like a
term.
commitment ceremony? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that you're married or you are not in a monogamous stable relationship. I mean, maybe that's it, but that doesn't go without saying. And also, by the way, a lot of people aren't monogamous in marriage.
Either. So what does that mean? What does that mean? You brought up something really good. So let's shift a bit to the real, well, not the Real Housewives, the Real Mormon Housewives, the show you've been
The
telling me to watch.
Secret Lives of Mormon Housewives.
I was close. And I texted you after watching the last episode, the first episode. I'm sorry, maybe I got halfway through the second one, and I was like, these people are all cosplaying a different version of themselves or like a heightened version of themselves. I cannot. It's a lot. Tell us about the show, friend.
So the show, I mean, I don't really know. It's on Hulu, and apparently the characters or the people in the show came from this TikTok group called Mom Talk, where these young moms who are Mormon in Utah got together and were creators in their own right, I think, but then
Mm-hmm.
got together and did dances and co-collaborated on sponsorships and stuff like that. And it turned out that some of them were
Swinging.
swinging with each other, maybe? Unclear. I could not figure that out
It
from.
seems like because my ears perked up, so I'm like, okay, now what you say about swinging, and it seems like they were just like kissing and making out, maybe the wives with each other, but definitely the wives with different husbands. Now, the one who kind of founded the group claimed that it never went beyond kissing, caressing, touching. But I also feel like, why would you share that? Like, we didn't actually need to know that, unless something more has happened. But that kind of is how things blew up, of course. But also, it's been a very critical component of the storyline of the show because it's not what you would think of as it relates to Mormon women and Mormon families and marriages.
But I do think it's interesting because it gives a glimpse into, well, these Mormon families. But the part that stuck out to me so much was how young they are and how, in another world, if they weren't born in Utah or wherever they were born and were born in like Metro Chicago or Metro DC or Baltimore or whatever, they would just be like getting drunk and being 27 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Because
Like,
that's
so it would not have been a big deal, right? They got drunk at a bar and made out with someone. But because they're 24 and have 3 children and are married, it feels different. And to be fair, it is different. The stakes are different when you have children, for sure. But it just made me feel so sad for them that they were like forced into this life,
for sure.
and for the men too.
And that's something that, yes, because we also have some whisperings of infidelity where one of the husbands was actually on like a dating site.
And one who had a porn addiction.
Girl, yes, that too. So it feels to me like there's one piece that I did miss in like my historical analysis, which is the role that religion plays in all of this. And it really spans types of religions clearly, denominations, etc. But when the patriarchy is at play, this idea of a woman having to settle down and not possess the forbidden fruit is so important because it is the woman who is meant to be the homemaker. You know, these very like gendered norms around what it means to have a family and the role that a woman is going to play.
And what does that, what happens in that dynamic when, I think maybe the Hall example is like a broader version of the Mormon housewives, where there are these very strong cis heteronormative values placed on the marriage, but the woman, in the context of Christina and in the context of the Mormon housewives, are the main income earners.
Girl, now talk about this. Talk about
So
this.
that to me is like what's really kind of the thing that's throwing people off. And that's what makes me so mad.
And the same thing with the whole trad wife thing, right? The idea that you're
Totally. Like the ballerina farm girl.
needing
Actually,
dough.
not her, never mind.
Yeah, I don't know much about her, but this
She's
idea that
married to like the son of the CEO of JetBlue. So
oh no, he making that bag. Well, inherited and he has inherited the bag, or he will. But I just think the idea that you're at home just needing dough, waiting on your husband to get a check, is just silly when you are huge in the influencer space, and we know how much money is to be made for professional content creators. So get out of here. It's all a scam. It's a scam, and I think that is the bigger kind of query today. What does this all truly mean to us in real life versus what we have been told it should be?
and what are we looking for in the institution? Right. So is it a family? Is it social status? Is it, earning potential? Is it feeling part of a community in a particular way?
Yeah.
And it's okay to have those conversations. I remember you and I had this really interesting, I don't know if you remember this, but to me it was very powerful in kind of my privilege that I hadn't been fully recognizing. We were talking about marriage and you were talking to me and Josh and you were like, I just want to have couple friends like you guys have couple friends.
Yeah.
And I think of you as having so many friends and so many queer friends, but you help me understand that, yeah, you do, but most of them are not married.
Are not married. Mm-hmm. And I would say that we have many Black women who are in hetero relationships, and they would say that them being single is the thing that kind of follows them or haunts them or that they're reminded of daily. So it really spans whether you are straight or you are queer in a same sex relationship. Marriage has continued to be it and to be represented in my community in a very different way. And sometimes I wonder, is that why we covet it so much outside of obviously the patriarchy and all the things, but because it seems so elusive to us. And there are so many class, race, and gender dynamics that play into it. And it's almost like to be a Black woman who is a high earner or to be middle class, we wear, if you were straight, marriage as a different kind of badge of honor. It's like over the top, girl. That's from what I have seen. But in a queer context, right, there's not that same amount of pressure. I think for younger people, it's different. I know a lot of older 40 plus queer people who are very happy to not be married. But there's something with my younger queer friends who, yeah, it's like we're getting married, we're having children, we're family planning, we're doing all the things that our straight counterparts do. And I think that's good. Part of that is because we do have greater access. But it also has been difficult to see my reflection in a particular way as we think about traveling and we think about, I don't know, game night. Where are our Black queer couple friends? We have them. They don't all live in DC in the metro area.
And also kind of this idea of just having people that you can be in community with that aren't your best friends, but have similar life experiences.
Which is really important too. And I think sometimes we see marriage in isolation. And it never was that. And I don't think it's healthy for it to be that. I have seen the need for accountability. Like, I'm never going to step too far out of line because I love your family in the way that I love you and they love me. And so, even if you really getting on my nerves today, I'm not going to dishonor you because I see your mother in you. I see your child in you. I see your sister in you. And I would never do anything to dishonor them. So, I'm going to hold myself accountable, not just to you, but to your entire family.
Oh, whoa. You were being so, I could not figure out what you were talking about for a second. And I was like, wait, you're loyal to my mom?
Not you, bitch. Although I love Miss Laney. Now, that is my girl.
Okay, no, yes, I think you're right. But that's the container I was talking about.
100%.
Right. That's like, right, we're a family and we can disagree or we can make mistakes or we can hurt each other, but at the end of the day, we want to protect the container.
And we're all in it together. Yes. And I don't think long-term dating, I felt that way to some degree. But our society is built to privilege marriage when it comes down to
Right.
that.
And so I think this is the last thing I do want to talk about because it's so real that our society privileges marriage.
Period.
And respects marriage. I mean, especially if you have children. I mean, but in other ways too. Like something about you saying like, oh, my wife, oh, my wife, oh, my wife, oh, my fiance hits different than my partner. I don't know why.
That's fair. That's fair. And so I do think we have to bring that in, right? It's not just our own desires or this sense of urgency. I want to have kids. I don't want to be married and I don't want to have kids and not be married, right? It's also everything outside of us that privileges it and has a disincentive to be, for example, if you want children, a single mother or a single father even. I'm just thinking about health insurance, right? My job at Saint Laurent, and it's not lost on me that it's a French company, is the first time I had the opportunity to put a partner on my health insurance benefits. We went and got a form notarized saying that we live together. I sent it in and boom, she had health insurance for the first time in her adult life because of where I worked. If we were married, it just would have been a given. And to this day, there are fewer places than not that allow that. So that, I guess, is kind of our analysis on things around marriage, the value of it, the challenges that are inherent within it. Y'all let us know your thoughts. If you are at a big age, are you comfortable? Are you happy dating? Are you looking for your forever person? What were the periods of your life where you felt the most fulfilled in partnership or out of partnership? We would love to know.
Yeah. And I think particularly to our younger audience, which we know is growing, what are your thoughts? Because I think that's where we, like us, what do we call it? Oh, geriatric millennials keep getting it wrong. We're like, oh, the younger people, blah, blah, blah. But I don't know. You all keep surprising me.
Yeah, it's so funny because I read the other day someone referred to us as grand millennials. So like we're the grandmothers of the millennials.
Okay, I like that. You're a thoughtress. I'm a grand millennial.
No, listen, what's
Tapping
tea?
in.
What's tea? Tell us what's good. We would love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you are subscribed to our channel. Leave us a positive review. If it ain't positive, don't say nothing. You ain't gotta say nothing. Wherever you listen to podcasts, and we will see you good people next time. Thanks for listening to justUS. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to learn more about our podcast, be sure to check us out on our website at justuspodcast.com. You can also reach out to us there if you want to be featured on the show, or if you have a business or a product that you think would be a good fit for our audience. Thanks again for listening.